Traditionally, calf housing had low roofs, making it too warm and lacking in fresh air. In more recent times, new calf housing is the exact opposite. When you walk into a calf house, there should be no smell. You should feel fresh air, even maybe a gentle breeze. Down at calf level, however, there should be no breeze. This is why it's important to get into calf pens and down to calf level. Issues we come across a lot these days, particularly in new and open housing, can often be overcome by considering what is happening within each calf pen. Having solid panels between pens is a major plus. Without these, like when gates are used between pens, it can be very cold for the calves with an increased risk of pneumonia. This is particularly true for large and long calf houses. A study conducted in Wisconsin investigated the prevalence of respiratory disease in the presence and absence of solid barriers. Calves that had equal amounts of straw in the pens but without solid barriers had greater incidences of respiratory disease compared to the calves in pens with solid barriers. It's very important to remember that young calves are very poor at regulating their own body temperature, and they spend about 80% of their time lying down. In addition to the straw being dry enough, the calves should have plenty to nestle into, particularly at the young age. Ideally, we should not be able to see the calf's legs amidst the straw when they're lying down. The study I previously mentioned also investigated the difference between straw allowances and, similarly to having solid panels between pens, having enough straw to cover the calf's legs while lying down resulted in lower signs of respiratory illness. This is because the calf can make a cocoon where it traps warm air, creating a little microclimate. If the calf has less straw, it won't be able to create a cocoon and will have to use more energy to keep itself warm. Another thing that can help with tall sheds is the use of canopies or false roof, placed at the back of the pens about 4 foot off the ground. This creates a warmer area for the calves, which you will see them choosing, particularly on colder days. This doesn't have to be anything fancy. Using mesh or gates with straw on top or hay on top can work well. Other things include sheets of wood or plastic. Usually something easily removed works best. The canopies should be slanted like roofs of sheds to allow air to circulate more freely in there. Keeping the straw separate to the feeding area really helps to keep the bedding dry, saving on straw. It is very important that the floor slopes away from the bedded area to help keep this bedding dry. In cases where straw is minimal, other options include peat or wood chip, but calves will always choose straw as their first choice. One option that can work very well is to use something like wood chip as a base layer and put straw on top. This can keep the straw drier for much longer and also create a base layer to keep the calves insulated and extra warm. These things can sound a little overboard, but with calves, attention to detail is everything. It's the extra things that make the marked differences in their health and growth.